Welcome to Cineights, where you get to know the best movies and series. Today's video is about movies where the main character is a really bad person. I hope you enjoy this video. Be sure to watch until the end because I'm sure you will like it. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video. Nightcrawler 2014, one of the most unique directorial debuts of the past decade. Dan Gilroy's Nightcrawler is the story of Lou Bloom, a petty criminal turned photojournalist who gets too involved in the violent stories he's covering. It was a wonderful and radically against-type role for Jake Gyllenhaal, leaving many shocked when he did not receive an Oscar nomination. One of the things that makes Lou so great is that he suckers the viewer into thinking he's an eccentric but good guy, being awkwardly charming and having an exciting job. But as the layers are peeled back, it becomes clear that he's a thoroughly evil man who will stop at nothing to make a quick buck, including brutally betraying people to get a better camera shot. The Usual Suspects 1995. Bryan Singer's crime classic The Usual Suspects is justly known for its famous twist ending, in which nervous, mild-mannered verbal kint turns out to have been the legendary Kaiser Soze the whole time. What makes the twist so impressive is how it truly changes everything about the movie, from the story of a meek survivor to that of an almost devil-like figure. Seeing Soze introduced by killing his own family makes it clear that he's someone not to be trifled with, the opposite of the persona he's adopted to betray his partners in crime. While his name is tarnished now, Kevin Spacey's performance as Verbal is still fantastic, making Verbal very sympathetic until his deliciously evil final scene. Reservoir Dogs 1992. Quentin Tarantino is a filmmaking genius, and his prodigious skill on the page and behind the camera shines through even in his debut. Like all of his subsequent films, Reservoir Dogs stars a cast of characters who are morally ambiguous, if not outright evil, and endlessly watchable. The film's heist crew runs the gamut of non-heroism, from the fairly noble but still criminal Mr. White to the coldly murderous Mr. Blonde, but none of them are anyone's idea of a good guy. Even with all their witty banter and humanizing moments, scenes like Blonde's torture of Officer Marvin Nash show that these guys live in a dark world where viciousness is the rule. A Clockwork Orange 1971. Stanley Kubrick's A Clockwork Orange was hugely controversial on its initial release for its violent content but slowly gained a cult following and is now regarded as a classic dystopian film. Even over 50 years later, A Clockwork Orange still holds up as a disturbing look into the psyche of a proudly immoral youth and what society does to break him down. Alex DeLarge is about as evil as a protagonist can get, an ultra-violence-obsessed rapist who cares nothing about the people he destroys. However, Malcolm McDowell's performance imbues him with some surprising layers, and the terror he experiences during the infamous Ludovico treatment scenes is enough to almost make the viewer feel sorry for him. Ace in the Hole 1951. Billy Wilder was one of the most versatile directors of old Hollywood, and the film noir drama Ace in the Hole is one of his masterpieces. The film was ahead of its time in its portrayal of the cutthroat world of journalism, in which anything goes as long as one can get a good story. Kirk Douglas's Chuck Tatum almost feels like he'd be at home in a 50s version of Nightcrawler, happily stringing an entire town along in delaying a man's rescue just so he can keep the news coverage going for personal gain. But unlike Lou Bloom, he ultimately has a conscience, and seeing him break down at realizing that he's getting a man killed is genuinely poignant. Goodfellas 1990. Of all the films to spotlight the criminal lifestyle, Goodfellas may be the one to best strike an important balance, making even its most despicable characters entertaining to watch without any of the romanticism that makes its lesser imitators ring hollow. Few filmmakers do mob movies as well as Martin Scorsese, and Henry Hill is one of his most nuanced characters, never killing anyone and having genuine love for his wife and daughters while still being a lying, philandering cad who never truly regrets being a gangster. The last scene has Henry in witness protection complaining about how he can't live the high life anymore, showing that even someone who's not truly evil might have no interest in redemption when crime pays so well. The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly 1966. While no one can beat the iconic status of Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name, Blondie, Tuco is ultimately just as much the protagonist of the good, the bad, and the ugly, if not more. Even though he's an unapologetic bandit with a very long rap sheet, Eli Wallach's lovable miscreant is an immensely entertaining character, providing many of the movie's best quotes. Not only is Tuco hilarious and charming, but there's also more to him than meets the eye. One of the movie's best scenes comes when Tuco meets his brother and pours his heart out about how he turned to crime because he didn't have a choice, giving him some surprising dimension that makes him even more memorable. The Godfather 1972. The crown jewel of New Hollywood and an all-time classic, The Godfather is one of the most influential films of the 1970s, setting a new standard for gangster films that few have even come close to matching. More than being a mere mafia story, it also works great as both a family saga and a hero's journey to villainy, exemplified by Corleone's youngest son, Michael. Ironically, for a movie beloved by actual gangsters, The Godfather ultimately portrays the mafia as a sordid business, and for all Michael's efforts to stay clean, he can't escape his calling. By the climax, in which he orders a series of brutal, nasty hits on New York City's dons, he's fully embraced the role of arch-villain and only Taxi Driver, 1976, a lonely, depressed man slowly going off the deep end into vigilantism. Taxi Driver's Travis Bickle is a complex, fully realized character who is both deeply sympathetic and frightening. In contrast to many other vigilantes on film, Bickle is clearly no good guy. Even his most heroic actions, like his rescue of Iris, are played for maximum horror. Still, one can easily tell that he's lived a life filled with trauma, and his long breakdown makes him easy to identify with for anyone who's experienced mental illness. A testament to the work of Scorsese, De Niro, and writer Paul Schrader that Taxi Driver still holds up so well today, with Bickle's story still having the power to shock, disturb, and engage. Scarface. Director Oliver Stone has a knack for writing sketchy, dishonest, and greedy characters, and he did just that for 1983's Scarface. In the movie, Al Pacino plays drug kingpin Tony Montana, who is as bad as they come. From the start, Tony engages in terrible things, like recovering cocaine and drug money, murdering Colombian drug dealers, and lusting after a drug lord's wife. Tony is a bad person because he has almost no regard for anyone else. He's mean to his wife Elvira, demeans her for not being able to have children, and doesn't do anything to help her with her coke addiction. He kills a lot of people throughout the movie without a second thought but pays for it with his own life as well. Fight Club. Edward Norton plays a bad man in David Fincher's 1999 psychological thriller Fight Club. Norton plays a middle-aged loser known as the narrator who suddenly meets a mysterious character named Tyler Durden. Durden encourages the man to engage in an underground fight club to show off his masculinity and rediscover himself as a person. In the end, Durden is a figment of the narrator's imagination, and it's him acting out a split personality disorder. The narrator fights and injures himself, pretends he has a real girlfriend, and inflicts pain on himself to deal with his depression. Worst of all, Tyler, the narrator coordinates Project Mayhem, which encourages acts of vandalism and eventually leads to the destruction of a building. Sideways. Alexander Payne's 2004 comedy Sideways is driven by two terrible people. Miles is a down-and-out writer with a drinking problem. He decides to take his equally horrible buddy Jack on a road trip to visit multiple vineyards in California before Jack's upcoming nuptials. Jack ends up cheating on his fiancée on the trip, which leads to her smashing his nose with a motorcycle helmet once she inevitably finds out. Sideways is meant to be a screwball comedy where everything goes wrong, and the audience knows Miles is a bad person from the get-go. He steals money to fund the trip, and then helps Jack cover up his broken nose by letting him crash the car. In the end, Jack sleeps with yet another woman who is not his fiancée and Miles returns to his hapless life. The Wolf of Wall Street. 2013's The Wolf of Wall Street not only contains some great quotes, but it contains one of the most vile and unlikable characters ever put on screen. Leonardo DiCaprio plays Jordan Belfort, a small-time trader who works his way up to working at a huge firm in New York. The problem is, Belfort has almost no morals and will do anything to make money. By all measures, Belfort is a bad person. He lies about stock valuations to get more sales, throws around expletives like it's nobody's business, and does drugs like it's going out of style. He doesn't care about the consequences of his actions and he ends up getting caught by the FBI for money laundering and fraud. Joker. Joker is the best movie out there that is centered around a bad person. Joaquin Phoenix plays Arthur Fleck, an introvert who struggles to fit in with society. The more people look down on him, the more Arthur internalizes his hate and pictures himself doing harm to others. Arthur is revealed to be a bad person in a harrowing subway scene where he murders a group of guys who are making fun of him. Later, Arthur kills a popular talk show host live on air and incites a riot. His transformation to the Joker is fully realized when it's noted that Arthur was abused as a child and his mother did nothing to stop it. Arthur murders his own mom as well and finds a new life as Gotham's greatest villain.